way.
Hiking the Appalachia was easier.
In some ways.
Morning, we'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. This is the 2022, December 19th, Board of County Commissioners. I'm joined with Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 3. I'm Bill Rippon, I represent District 1. Good morning. What's our first?
We're going to add.
We're gonna add the item.
Yes, that's correct. I'd like to add an item under Parks and Rec D2. Okay. All right.
And then we're adding, the item is going to be for the public hearing
Right.
on the design build for the Oakland Aquatic Center facility and the Shawnee South Community Park splash pad project.
Got it.
Okay. All right. First item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
I'll move for approval.
I will second. Next item.
We approve it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of sync here today. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Okay. Under Building Maintenance, JP Construction LLC, $23,166 for renovation of men's restroom at Investa Softball Complex. Also, CBS Manhattan LLC, $16,165 is for alarm system updates at several park and recreation locations. Under Building Maintenance and Parkland Acquisition 7, Heartland Title Service, Inc., totaling $45,807.45 for the purchase of properties adjoining Lindblom Park. Under District Court, State of Kansas, $21,284 is for supplemental compensation for magistrate judges. Under Parks and Rec Acquisition, paid for by ARPA and SLFRF funds, KBS Constructors, Inc., $98,965.01 is for work at Shawnee County Campgrounds. Under Sheriff, Tyler Technologies, Inc., $67,298 is for e-ticketing software and maintenance. If there's no questions or comments, I'd move for approval of the vouchers for
Second.
December 16, 2022, totaling $1,468,252.70.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item B, Public Works number 1, acknowledge change order number 1 final to contract C216-2022 with King Construction Company, Inc., reflecting an as-bid versus as-constructed quantities on emergency bridge replacement project S121-058.00, Southwest 61st Street over 6 Mile Creek. This change order will result in a project decrease of $2,259.97.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. I won't restate what Cindy just said, but I will say that not only did it decrease the construction cost by approximately $2,260, it decreased the overall project cost by approximately $87,000. So with this acknowledgement, our bridge program comes to a halt until March of 2023, when we will let a project with KDOT on Northwest 66th Street, about 300 foot of North Topeka Boulevard. And we'll have a relatively light year next year with one bridge, and that should carry us into '24 when we'll have a relatively large bridge on South Topeka Boulevard. So with that, I look forward to any questions you have.
Questions?
Better to come in under budget than over, so
Yeah.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-0.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item C, Information Technology, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-382-2022, renewal of licensing fees with Atlassian for several cloud-based software components at a cost of $9,675 with funding from the 2022 department budget.
Morning, Commissioners, and Cindy, very good saying Atlassian. That it's very hard to say.
I like it.
This is just our annual renewal for our Atlassian software. It is used by our developers. It's also used for some help desk software we use, and I can answer any more questions if you have them.
I do not.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item C2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-383-2022 with Software House International for Azure prepayment renewal for Microsoft Azure Platform Services at a cost of $73,950 with funding from the 2022 Information Technology budget.
Morning, Commissioners. This item was originally brought to you earlier this year. I think it was in March, where we did a short-term prepayment. In the past, we had been paying monthly for this service. This has allowed us to, rather than having this go on a credit card, it's a overall billing. It is a cost savings feature for us, and would ask that we can continue it.
Questions?
No?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Item D, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consideration and approval is requested to allow Parks and Recreation to transfer the balance of the 2022 operating budget up to 3% of the overall budget to the Parks and Recreation Building Maintenance 3R Fund for the exclusive use of deferred maintenance or of county buildings and parklands.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Director, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department. With your approval, we would like to transfer up to 3% of our remaining budget into our deferred maintenance fund. As you know, this will go to handle deferred maintenance at our buildings and parklands, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I do not. I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item D2, public hearing for to consider whether to use the design build as the alternative project delivery method for the Oakland Aquatic Facility and Shawnee South Community Park Splash Project. The project is funded by the issuance of capital projects bonding in compliance with Shawnee County purchasing requirements.
Okay, I would move that we go into a public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries 2-0. Okay.
I'm assuming that this would be at the time if there was anybody from the public that wanted to speak.
Is there?
Correct. You might want to tell a little bit about the project and why you are seeking design build rather than the traditional delivery
Sure.
method for this project. Thank you.
Yes, Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department. So as the clerk mentioned, these are projects that we would like to fund with the capital improvement bonds that we received. The pool at Oakland is in desperate need of repair. It's over 55 years old. It's not going to last much longer. We would like to have somebody come in and take a look at that area and basically have hopefully we have different firms come in and give us some proposals on what they think the best solution would be. The Shawnee South Splash Pad would be a completely new facility, but we don't offer a lot out in that area of town, and we think that it it would be nice to put something in to service the people that live in Montera and in that area. There's plenty of young families and children that live in that area. As far as using design build over the traditional, we don't have any plans drawn up for either of these facilities. And we think there's some benefit in having some experts come in and give us some insight on what they think would be appropriate at both locations.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So Tim, let's just kind of walk through the projects a little bit. The Shawnee County Commission approved the bonding of $20 million, $10 million to go towards the Department of Corrections with mental health, and then $10 million to go to Parks and Rec. Out of the $10 million that's bonded to go to Parks and Recreation, not all of the $10 million is going to go to the Oakland Pool and a Shawnee South Community Splash Pad, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this would just be, there's at least 3 or 4 other projects that are being considered.
All right. And then for a design build, the reason why you're doing a design build as opposed to just a bid is these are constructions of new facilities as opposed to renovating existing ones.
Absolutely.
And the new facility at Oakland, are you looking at moving it so it's closer to the roadway? Or right now, the Oakland Pool is set back quite a ways from the
Yeah.
facility?
Yeah, and over the last, several years, we've had a lot of issues with vandalism and other things in that location, and because it's a little bit hidden back there. So we do like the idea of bringing it closer to the street. We could utilize the parking lot there at the community center, Oakland Billard Community Center. And it would also allow us, in theory, to be able to continue to operate the other pool until we had something built, a replacement. So would minimize the amount of downtime.
Not binding you to any timeline, but are you hopeful that the construction will occur in 2023 with completion maybe even at the end of 2023?
Well, again, I'm like you, I don't want to make any promises that I can't deliver, but that would be ideal.
Okay. And then Shawnee South Community Park Splash Pad. South of what? Where are you looking at?
Probably, everything is on the table, to be honest. Again, I don't want to come out here and make statements that ultimately aren't true, but right now, we're considering right there, close to the Velma K. Paris Community Center. We've got a couple of ball diamonds there that are lightly used. We think we may be able to use some space there. Keep one of the ball diamonds, replace the other one with some sort of splash pad. There's plenty of land. We've got restroom facilities there. There's a little bit of infrastructure that I think would help us make the most out of the funds that we have available.
So this would be a splash pad facility for Montera or people that live in that area or people that want to travel to that area?
Absolutely.
All right. And then, again, your time frame would be construction during 2023?
Yeah, again, ideally, that would be what we'd like to do. Yeah. I mean, a lot of that will depend on whoever we select to do the project and what their timeline is, what their availability is, but hopefully for sure within the next 2 years.
Should the county commission approve your request today to go to design build, when would you be looking, what's your next step?
The next step, I believe, would be for us to go out as a request for qualifications on the design build process.
And when would that request be coming to the commission?
I would imagine within 2 weeks, depending on the schedule, the upcoming schedule of commission meetings.
Okay. Bill?
Go ahead. Tim, do you have any projections on what this, the splash pad would cost down by Montera? Paris, for example?
I really hesitate to throw numbers out until we've had a chance to look at it. I've seen what some other splash pads that have been built recently cost. For instance, I know they just completed a project in Lawrence, and it was a very small splash pad, and I think it was around $500,000 or $600,000. I would anticipate what we're trying to do to be possibly a little bigger than that, so you could be in the $1 million range.
Okay. And what about the Oakland Aquatic Facility? What, do you have any ideas on what we're looking at?
Again, it depends on what we ultimately end up constructing. If we do a full-blown swimming pool, you're looking at least, I would say somewhere between $3 to $4 million, pretty easy. If we did more of a splash pad type facility, it would be less. But we have done quite a bit of, we'll have to do more, but we've done quite a bit of community engagement already. We've done some surveys. We've met with the Oakland NIA on numerous occasions. So there's a lot of ideas about what would be appropriate, and I think that'll be part of this process, is really nailing down what it is we're going to do.
The Oakland NIA and the community surveys came back very high for a pool facility. And some of the preliminary discussions, again, we wait till design build or the qualifications come in, is something similar to what is at Garfield, that size. and scope.
That is absolutely true, especially when you talk about the NIA. I mean, that group has been pretty adamant about a pool replacement. The survey results did come back in favor of a pool, but it was pretty narrow. I mean, it was pretty close. There are some benefits to doing a splash pad. It would be open earlier in the year, open later in the year. It would be free, possibly. So there's some things. It takes less guards. It's easier for us to staff and manage. So there's some benefits to that, but ultimately, we want to do, we want to talk to the community, find out what they want, and that's what we'll try to do. So it's, it'll be an interesting process.
Isn't the Oakland pool in close proximity to the Garfield pool?
They are very close, about 2
Well-
miles away.
It might just, that's an observation that gets raised frequently, except you have to look at the bridge that separates the two. With the Sardu Bridge, and it's very difficult for, when you're considering young children or, young people to travel from Oakland into the North Topeka to go to Garfield. That's just an area that's not easy to get from spot A to spot B. And that's one of the reasons, and if you also look at the population of Oakland, you have close to 6,000 residents that are living in Oakland by themselves. So,
Absolutely, that is all true.
I'm a little concerned too that, the main reason for bonding this money was for the development of Family Park, and now it seems like it's been watered down to all these other projects. Where are we at on the Family Park?
Yeah, we have, as you know, we came to this body some time ago with a recommended first phase that had gone through our advisory board, and they had voted and approved, and that was, if I remember correctly, that first phase was about $7.5 million. I don't think we've got enough money to do that and do these other projects. Since then, we've worked on a sort of a revised first phase, and again, these are really rough estimates, so don't hold me to this, but to do the pickleball courts that we've discussed, at length, to do pickleball courts, a large playground, and an open-air shelter with a restroom attached. You're looking, we think right now, somewhere around $3.5 million. And as I say that, it seems, with today's rates and the inflation and everything, you might as well pencil in $4 million. I mean, by the time we're done. So, yes, I mean, we absolutely want to see something done, or I do, at Family Park with this money.
So will you be bringing something to us soon on Family Park?
Yes.
The first phase?
Yes.
but today is just to authorize a design build for these two projects and then going out for qualifications with decisions to be made at a later date.
Absolutely. We'll come back with our findings, and then this board would have a chance to approve whether we move forward or not.
So I'll move for approval of the design build request.
You're going to need to.
Should
Oh,
we,
sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Bill. Jim, thank you. All right. I'll withdraw that.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak in favor or oppose, anybody in opposition to these projects? I don't see anyone, so. All right.
So motion to close public hearing,
Second?
and
Oh, you're going to make two,
I'll make a separate motion.
okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries 2-0.
Then a motion to approve the request for design build for Oakland Aquatic Facility and Shawnee Community Park, or Shawnee South Community Park Splash Pad.
Okay, I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item E, Department of Corrections, number 1, consider approval of request to transfer $150,000 from the departmental budget to a security equipment special fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I first want to say thank you to Betty Greiner and her staff for working with us on this and working closely at the end of the year budget process that we have at the Department of Corrections. With such a big budget and stuff like that, we want to make sure that we're meeting with the experts in the county to ensure that, we're doing everything correctly. Much like most law enforcement areas and stuff like that, we do have a huge need when it comes to vests, less lethal equipment, firearms, and safety equipment. And a lot of times, people will say, do you carry your weapons as much as the other law enforcement? The answer is yes. We transfer and transport inmates every day, often using the need for firearms and stuff like that. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we put a committee together to try to address some of the needs. I worked real close with Jim Crowell in his office a little bit, talking about the need maybe for body cameras in areas of the jail for liability issues and for public safety. And so with these kind of things here, we reached out to Betty and started talking about the possibility of securing some funds that we do anticipate having at the end of the year, and we would like to request to be able to transfer $150,000 into a special fund to allow us to prioritize and to purchase the equipment that we need to ensure that the staff, the inmates, and the public are safe, and that we're using that product that we're seeing in line with the courts. And what you'll see is, and when we worked with Jim's office, is you're seeing a big push in the courts for a lot of less lethal information and use inside the facility. We don't carry weapons inside the facility. It's less lethal. Pepper spray or maybe tasers, or maybe the issue of having maybe a pepper ball gun and stuff like that. These are things that we use every day. But again, this is something that we do need. We work very closely with the sheriff's office, and the thing is a lot of the things that we have here, like this, they get outdated, and over about 5 to 7 years, then all of a sudden they become obsolete. So we have our CERT team, which is our emergent response, and our transport staff who use this information. So without any further question or any information from me, or if Betty has anything, I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Very well said. So I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item E2, consider approval of resolution number 2022-109, formalizing procedures for the annual transfer of Department of Corrections budget funds to the Department of Corrections Building Maintenance and Equipment Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department again, from Department of Corrections. I again want to say thank you to Betty Greiner and Jim Crowell and their office and their staff for helping us. This is to ask for an approval of a resolution that will allow us to create and implement a ongoing fund that allows us to use any additional funds up to 3% of our budget to be able to go towards specific projects, not just to, should I say, to willy-nilly and just start spending on any old thing that can happen at the jail. But this is for us to identify specific things such as HVAC or security or fire suppression stuff, which we're really looking very closely at trying to replace and do. But this will allow us to identify projects early in the year, things that come up, and that allows us to use money that we don't deplete a contingency fund, and that we're better team players and more responsible with our money. This is something very similar to what we did to our medical department and our budget. And again, I'd like to say thank you to Jim Crowell and their office for creating and working on the resolution, and Betty Greiner and her staff for helping us to identify the best way to proceed going into the future with such a huge project and building and stuff like that. So I would stand for any questions you may have.
I think this is a good resolution for today, and considering what we are doing. But I might note that if Shawnee County was ever to get to a spot to where our reserves were being depleted and we needed to build back into our reserves, this resolution, as well as some others that cover other department heads, may need to be looked at. And we did do that in 2012 or 2013, when our reserves were dipped down.
Absolutely.
And rescind some of those resolutions that did just this thing. But I think with our reserves at its current rate, this is an appropriate measure, as long as we keep our reserves at the appropriate rate.
Good morning, Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. And we did take that into consideration in this, and that's why it's not a blanket transfer. They have to come to you each year and ask for that transfer. That way, depending on the situation, the financial situation of the county, that can be considered.
And I might just note that the only department that doesn't have to do that is Public Works, and they're by statute.
Well, yes and no. They still have to come and ask. By statute, they can transfer it, but they still have to come and ask, and that will be on the next agenda. The only one that doesn't have to come and ask is the noxious weed department. By statute, that is an automatic transfer. So.
Congratulations, John.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
I will move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item E3, approval is requested to transfer the remaining monies from the 2022 Department of Corrections budget to the Building Maintenance and Equipment Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. With the approval of the last, information and last item that this is our official request to be able to transfer money up to 3% for those specific districts. We are working very closely with Betty Griner on those specific projects, and one in particular looking at the fire suppression. We did reach out to Nelda right off the bat, or waited a little bit and then got with her regarding, because there's some things I just don't understand the language, and she said, oh yes, this is very important. So when you're looking to fire suppression, but I've been working very closely with Betty, and again, these will be projects, and this is our request now to be able to transfer that money, and then we will be coming back for an RFP to be able to do that. If that makes sense, I think so.
I'll move for approval.
Okay, I'll second. It seems redundant here. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 2-0.
I might just note, the
Thank you.
E2 created it, E3 authorized it.
Okay. Yes. All right. Next item.
Item 5, public comment.
We don't have anyone signed up for public comment, but is there anyone here who would like to speak? Seeing none. Next item.
Item 6, administrative communications.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Moss, Shawnee County Treasurer. Just a friendly reminder, tomorrow, December the 20th, is your last day to pay your taxes, for the first half anyway. You have the ability to pay online, which is the preferred method. You can also still pay by mail as long as it's postmarked by midnight tomorrow night. You can pay in person. You can also drop your payment off. We have a drop box at the west exit to the courthouse parking lot, or you can drop it off at the motor vehicle annex on 17th Street. We do not process payments at 17th Street, but we'll bring that down to the courthouse for processing. And again, we will accept cash, check, or credit card. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. I wanted to introduce a new member of our staff. Come on up, Eric. Eric Van Biesler has been with us now for a few weeks, so he's not brand new, but he did fill a new position that we were able to create, our administrative superintendent position. So as part of that job, Eric will be overseeing all of our financial operations. He'll be working closely with Angela Lewis for our HR functions. Oversees the marketing and social media areas of the department, all of our training and risk management, among other things. So it's a fairly big job. Eric, I know I'll let him speak, but I know he spent many years with Evergy had a career there, and I think in his words, he said he wanted to come work, he wanted the next phase of his work career to be working somewhere where he felt like he was making a difference here in Shawnee County, and I think he picked a great place to be. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Van Biesler.
Good morning. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity for this position. And Tim's right, somewhere to make a difference, somewhere to work, working with great people. And that's the one thing I have found so far is the staff has been absolutely fantastic, top to bottom. Also, a place to have a little bit of fun. And what's more fun than putting things out there for the community, in parks and the recreation and everything. It's just absolutely a joy to be part of that team.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec is a fun place to work.
I hear from experience, so.
My kids always thought I had a great job because I would go work with the carousel or the train or something.
Yeah, it's
a wonderful job.
I will say this, and very humbled by it. I have lived in Topeka for 30 years. I was a meter reader at one time throughout Topeka and Shawnee County, supervisor, manager over departments. One thing that has surprised me, I thought I was very in tune with everything in our community. I am aghast by how much there is with Parks and Recreation and how good this department has been, especially when you start looking and compared to other communities and stuff. It's outstanding. So.
Okay, well, welcome aboard, Eric.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Commissioner Cook, you have anything to add?
Just holidays are upon us.
No. We're looking at some cold weather coming up here, so make sure you take care of your pets and be careful out there.
Well, we might be by teams on Thursday, because if it's too cold to walk across the street. I just want to let you know that ahead of time, just in case. I don't want you to be surprised if we pop up on the screen.
Miss Becky, you want me to pick you up and drive you across the street?
That would be good. About, 8:50 would work for us.
We'll pick you up and drive you across the
It's gonna
street.
be 47 below zero wind chill.
Talk to Larry. He's used to handling cold weather. He can
Yeah,
give you
Larry's
some
got that
tips
down.
there. We have no need for an executive session, so we are adjourned.